a show. It's a podcast show. Welcome to the Julie Cross Podcast Show. Empowering, energising and entertaining. Hello friends, Julie Cross here. Welcome to the podcast show. Something a little bit different for you today. It's actually somebody else's podcast show. I had the privilege of being interviewed recently by Janine Vosper from the We Are Women podcast. And I did find that, different messages come out when you're being interviewed. And I know how I haven't done that yet on this podcast where I've invited guests on, and that is in my plan. That is my plan. I'm going to run out of words soon. And I look forward to doing that. But I do find different messages come out of actually being interviewed than when I'm just talking myself on stage. So please tune in. It's a wonderful podcast. She's got lots of interesting women that she has interviewed before me and certainly will come after me. So there may be other podcasts that you would also enjoy there, but I have included it here for you today for your listening pleasure. So enjoy, and thank you, Janine, for the invitation to be on your show. Thank you.
Facing challenges and overcoming setbacks is part of doing business. Whether you have the expertise to survive them or not could mean the difference between success or failure. Welcome to We Are Women, featuring revealing conversations that provide invaluable insights into the success secrets of female masterminds. A must listen for every entrepreneurial woman. Now here's your host, Janine Vosper.
Hi, it's Janine Vosper here, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Women podcast. Now, with me today, this is an absolute treat. I've heard Julie speak from stage, and you are just going to love this conversation. So I've got Julie Cross with me. Now, Julie is a multi-award winning speaker, and she's an author and a masterful storyteller. You are going to love these stories. And she's been sharing her inspirational messages on a variety of stages for the last 20 years. Julie has been described as a fun and inspirational entertainer with a thought-provoking and inspiring message that challenges individuals to know for sure that they all have the ability to get through the worst times, to find the best times, and celebrate how extraordinary we all really are. Now, Julie is, as I said, she's one of the most inspiring speakers that I've ever heard. It was just, she had me in tears, she had me laughing, and she combines powerful insights into human behavior and with practical strategies that leaves anyone that listens to her with some incredible tools to live their best life and set a higher standard in all aspects of their existence. So affectionately, Julie's known as Sparkles. I'm going to have to ask her about that. And she's not just a high energy speaker with a few shiny sound bites. She is able to connect her message of inspiration and motivation and practical personal development at all levels, from corporate CEOs to childcare assistants and absolutely everything in between. Now, I'm going to guarantee in this episode you are going to be entertained. You will laugh. You will cry. I've done sort of that within about seconds of each other listening to Julie at different times. And you will be challenged, and you'll have many moments that you see yourself in, and you'll be taking on this lively, feeling, thinking, soul nurturing, and sometimes confronting journey for the next hour that will rouse your senses and stir your emotions and challenge you to take action. I know I've really built you up there, Julie, haven't I? Hasn't that amazing?
Oh my God. I'm sitting here thinking, are you talking about me, this little girl from Mullet Creek in country Queensland that, had a dream one day and used to push ladders up against tank stands and climb up on them and pretend to perform to an audience. And then I think, wow, life takes you on a journey, and suddenly you're living a dream and you're hearing somebody, you're making me want to cry. You're hearing somebody talk about you like that and wondering, is that really me, and who do I think I am?
Absolutely. And very much welcome to the show. And I'm so looking forward to hearing you tell your story again and the inspirations that we're going to gain from it. So I'm just going to leave you to it to talk about who you are, what's the story, and where you have come from, and what you do now.
Thank you. Well, firstly, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, Janine. It's an honour to be here and to be here with your listeners. So thank you so much for giving me this stage in this conversation. So there's been many stages, as you said, but my journey never started here. And as I said, I grew up in regional Queensland in little tiny country towns, and back then you kind of just went out hard and fast. And I think listeners would relate to this, and anyone in my age group, in the 50s, we just, back then when we were young, you just went out hard and fast when it came to getting out to work. School wasn't working for me. I was 16, and you just left home and got a job. And in regional Queensland, there kind of wasn't a lot of job choices, lots of pubs and lots of hairdressing salons, as there still is. And my dad was kind of always at the pub, so I thought, I know what I'll do, I'll be a hairdresser. And that's kind of where my journey started in the hairdressing industry. So, I became a hairdresser, and I guess one of the things that I talk about today is that, and I share with our young people, is that we don't wait for the right job to make a difference. I think that there's this idea now that you kind of put off giving the best of yourself until you find your passion, and you can't be happy until you found your dharma in life, what you're meant to do. But in reflection, I see with my journey that you just find a job, you take your passion to the job, and then life opens up opportunities for you. So in reflection, I had to spend 20 years in the room of hairdressing, which I absolutely loved, to grow into who I needed to be to take this stage of my life as a speaker. It wouldn't have happened straight out of school. You needed to go on a journey discovering yourself before that happens.
Absolutely. And that's a really great point for people that are listening that are in that market, or for the parents that children are just, and it's a different expectation now, isn't it, than when we started off working. I know I started off in a cut price store because it was just, and I loved it, and I took that passion into what I did every single day, being around people and enjoying it without having to think about, am I living my purpose?
That's right, exactly. And I think that's, that's we're selling our children a little bit of a dream that's not real at the moment. We're kind of, and even we're thinking, if you go to uni, you do your degree, you get out, your life's made, you're living in a beautiful unit, you got the great girlfriend, boyfriend, you got the beautiful car, you're going on holidays every year. Wow. And it doesn't even happen like that. You come out of uni with a degree, you won't always get a job in the degree that you've just completed the uni in. You'll still have to start at the bottom. You'll have to get whatever job you can get. You'll have to put your passion into it. You'll have to find your way, and then eventually life will open up opportunities for you. So I think that, we've got to keep it real for our young people and let them know that, and that you're not failing if you don't find your perfect job out of school. You're not failing. You don't have to feel disappointed. You don't have to feel like you're not making it. You're right on track. You are right on track. You've just got to keep bringing the best of yourself to that job. And then when there's an opportunity, who's life listening to? The person that's holding back, or the person that's putting their hand up and giving the best of themselves with a great attitude and with passion? And that's an obvious answer of who's going to get the opportunities. And I think that's what we're missing.
And you never know where you start at 15. You just don't know where that actual road's going to take you. Mine's always been around sales and customer service and looking after people and communicating in confidence. And I'm doing that now on a whole different scale, but it's been something that I've loved doing along the way. But I didn't know where those things were going, but you just keep going forward rather than stalling.
That's exactly right. And I think it's a combination of what I call having goals, because we always talk about that, but still having room for you to flow in life. Because, I think we hang on too tight. We've talked to goal set, to go for it at whatever cost, keep moving through. But sometimes life is trying to push us gently into another direction. So the reason something didn't work over there was because actually we needed to go over here. And life was just gently redirecting us, into another direction. But when we're so hell-bent on just staying on that, targeted on that goal, we're missing some opportunities, I think. So I think that we still need to have room to flow in our lives. And I know that, that my business has been built on a flow, not a definite goal every year about who I need to speak to and how many people. It's about flowing where the audiences takes me, making sure I'm finding the audiences and they find me, so that it's just a smarter way to work, and it's a whole lot less stressful. So I think that there's something in that too, that we're not And that's hard to teach. Like, it doesn't feel like it's concrete enough to teach people. So we kind of avoid it a little bit with our young people, rather than letting them, trust that that where you are now may not be where you end up, but it's okay to start there. It's actually a great starting point wherever you are. And that's exactly where you need to be right now to get to the next point. But don't hold back on it. Don't hold back on it and say, well, I'm not going to give my best to this because, it's not really what I want to do and I don't want to get tired for later on.
I don't want to get tired for later on.
I don't want to put it all out here. So we've got to put it all out here wherever we are, because life's listening, and then you'll have the opportunities open up for you. When I just think, that's so relevant in my life. And I mean, still haven't finished high school, Janine, and I whisper that when I say it because, part of me does feel a little inadequate with that sometimes, and I go, I haven't even got a high school certificate, no uni degree. And here I am speaking on stages, corporate environments, being paid really well to do so and living my dream because I believed in myself and I dared to flow.
The flow is a great terminology. I like that. And you've had a lot of things that have tried to knock you down throughout your life, which you've had to get up and just accept that and then flow with them, because I know there's a lot of things in your life didn't go the way that you thought they would at the time.
No, that's right. And so it was, so when I look back and starting this business, we all need somebody who believes in us. And I met this wonderful man who I married, and I met him in Townsville, and, we moved to Melbourne where I started my business. I was working as an educator in the hairdressing industry. We worked a lot of nights and a lot of hours. And when I fell pregnant, I knew I couldn't do that job. So I ended up resigning. And when Jack was 6 months old, I had read this book called Speak and Grow Rich. I knew I had this passion for presenting from the stage because I'd been training in the industry. And so I thought, well, I've got a 6-month-old son. Let me start a new business, because that's a good time to start a business, isn't it, with the 6-month-old? But that's kind of what we do, isn't it, as women? And so I started my speaking business then. And my life was in a great place then. And I was talking on all sorts of subjects, motivation, but also leadership and customer service, etc. But then, as you said, I hit a time of my life, so 10 years kind of into my business, and my husband had a massive stroke, and I found myself pushed into a room that I didn't want to go into, and you realise that this is life, and you've got to decide how you walk through it, and all that stuff that I've been talking about for years. I felt like I was suddenly like, oh, well, you've been talking the talk, Missy, but can you really walk the walk? Because it's one thing to talk the talk on all of this motivational, personal development, self-leadership, moving through the tough times, but it's a whole other thing when you've got to walk it yourself. And it was very confronting, and so he had a stroke. My life went into a spiral, and then my son was diagnosed.
How old were your children? Your children when he had the stroke?
Yeah, so Jack was 8, my oldest, and then I had another one by then, and Thomas was 4. So 2 little boys, and you wake up one morning and your life's devastated. You just go, how did this happen? And then you feel like you get caught in a spiral. And what I share with my audiences now is that that's very normal. We do get caught in a spiral because like energy attracts like energy. You get caught in this negative vortex, and you feel like you can't make it stop. And so sometimes you just have to surrender to it for a little while, and you do the sadness. And then my son, a month after my husband had the stroke, my youngest son was diagnosed with autism. And so it just kept getting worse. And I had autism in therapy, stroke in therapy, autism trying to talk to stroke trying to talk to autism. I'm needing some therapy. Trying not to lose my mind and my other son. And, every wall's being kicked in, the windows are being smashed because Thomas with his autism and grief. And, it was a big mess, I've got to tell you. And our life it was just a mess. And so I learned some really valuable lessons through that because we suddenly discover that there's nobody that can tell you when my husband is going to be better. With a stroke, we don't know when better is. We don't even know what better looks like. So there was this amazing confronting moment for me when I realised that if nobody could give me a date on a calendar when my husband was better, when do I get to be happy again? When do I get to find joy again? When do I get to, just say, well, I can lighten up now and laugh again? And that was a really profound moment because the reality is it happens when I choose to find it again because this is now my life. And this is life, and I can't change it. So I'll have to transform how I see it and how I view it. So that was an empowering moment of realizing that if I focus on the devastation and the why me and how can this happen, I stay devastated. But what if I change my thinking and think I'm gratefully still alive? Wow, that's a better feeling place instantly. What if I focus on my boys? That's a better feeling place. What if I focus on hope because he's showing progress? That's a better feeling place. And so I learned that with each thought, you get stronger, you lift your energy up, the emotional scale, and every time you get back up, you get stronger at it. And it doesn't mean you don't sink back down to devastation, because I sink down as many times, but you get back up again. And every time you get back up, you get stronger at it. You get better at it. You spend more time up there. And so joy sneaks into our life when my husband starts to talk again and gets his words mixed up, and we laugh. You're allowed to laugh through these terrible times, I suddenly discover. And it makes you feel good. And it soothes the soul and it gives you strength. And so it was a real lesson for me during those times of taking control of my life, because this is my life. And we can go on and on about, why should this happen? It's work, because this is life. We need to just relax into that and knowing life is not just about good. Life hurts. And sometimes it hurts a little, and sometimes it really hurts a lot. But that's life.
That's a great statement. That's life. I mean, I think they made an ad about that, didn't they, at some stage? But that, and I love the terminology used then, a better feeling place. So that is not as big a step for some people. Saying that you be happy, be joyful, all of these things. But if you can find a better feeling place,
exactly right,
that is something that I think most people can do.
Absolutely. And that was a big learning for me, that when you're in devastation, it's too big a leap from devastation to joy. So you actually don't have to leap that high. You just have to initially, I went from devastation to anger. But you know what? Even that's an empowering place over devastation. So you don't sit in anger for too long. But that getting angry about, right, if you think you are taking me down, you are wrong. Because this shit might be happening in my life, excuse my French, but I have got this and I am getting back up through it, and you watch me. So that anger is fuel for you to get back up out of devastation. And then what if from anger you can just go to the gratitude for a minute? And so that's not joy yet, but it's better feeling again. And so every time you move up, you're moving further and further up that emotional scale. And so you're so right that when we are in a place where we're feeling devastated, we don't have to go straight to joy. You just lift yourself up one better feeling place at a time, and you get stronger and stronger. You get mentally stronger, emotionally stronger. And then eventually you can find the joy, moments of joy again. And that's exactly how we did it. Because, of course, the story went on, as you would know, that, after my son was diagnosed with autism, and we would have 4 years where we would get to practice this a lot because our life was just a big mess.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing I talk to a lot of people about now, and I know people really relate to it. In this world of Instagram picture perfect, we've forgotten that life actually isn't. We see all the best captures on social media and in billboards and of everything in life. You see it in advertisements where you buy the Barbie because you bought the picture where the Barbie was set up with all the beautiful prawns on skewers with cobs of corn lined on the side, with the beautiful people standing around with their heads thrown back laughing with a glass of wine in their hand. There wasn't a fly in sight. The Barbie was clean as anything, and that's not real, but that's what we buy. That's not what we buy. That's what we buy. We buy that picture perfect scene when we buy the Barbie. And so we've become subconsciously, hypnotized into thinking that it's supposed to all look perfect for our life to be working. Well, life's not like that. Life's actually messy. Behind that perfect photo is a messy barbecue, is flies sitting on everything, is, that you've got to deal with this mess later on. It's burning your chops, it's just not like that. And so our life wasn't like that. Our life was messy. I had a husband trying to do therapy, and my son we're trying to learn about autism and trying to keep the relationship with my sons, with their dad, and try to work it, and I've still got to work because I'm suddenly the income earner. So I'm going away to work wondering, if Flash is going to be all right, well, my husband's going to be all right while I'm away. Will Thomas run away because he kept running away? Oh, will Jack be able to handle it all if Flash falls over in the shower? So it's just messy. So for 4 years we were a family in a big mess, but you just do the best that you can because that's all you've got and you keep walking through it. And I read this wonderful quote in the midst of all that. I was at an airport going away to work and I read this quote and, life just shows up just when you need it. There's messages and this quote said, when you're going through hell, just keep going. So I just roared laughing in that moment and thought, that's it. All I have to do is just keep walking. Eventually, I've got to get through hell. I have to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And so, and then, the story continues that after that 4 years, my husband needed a new heart. He was on the heart transplant list. But anyway, he would go into hospital for, tests. He would come out of hospital with a staph infection. He would go back into hospital for antibiotics. And I'd be picking him up on the Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock and everything was great. And then I'd have a phone call that morning at 5 a.m. asking me to go to the hospital, to walk into a room that I don't want to go into. But sometimes life hurts a little and sometimes it hurts a lot. And then a devastating drive home to tell my little boys that Daddy's died. And so we sink back to devastation again. But I've had a pretty good workout by now. So I'm stronger by now. And I know that we are allowed to be sad. We allow ourselves our sadness. And then we give ourselves permission to get back up again because we are worth getting back up for. And this is why I'm so passionate about speaking about people's relationship with themselves. I just think what we forgot is that when we loved ourselves enough, we would realise that we are always worth getting back up for. So no matter what we've gone through, that I'm worth getting back up for. I've still got life. I have to give life the respect it deserves because my husband doesn't have it anymore. So how dare I not get back up and live this life? How dare I not go to the heights of joy and be so grateful that I still get to be here, So and I'm worth getting back up for and so are my boys. And so through the devastation, we allow ourselves our sadness and then we remember that we're allowed to get back up and find laughter and joy again. And we just do it one step at a time.
I like that. How dare I not do it? And I think that's when I heard you speak. That was one of the things that really grabbed me was that how dare I not do that, and that just really hit me as a what you've got a responsibility, as you said, a responsibility to life.
Yes, that's right. So life is so precious, and with my husband, it really was confronting that realisation that there really is just a heartbeat in it. There is just a heartbeat in it, and life is so precious, and he doesn't have his to do anymore. So I just felt like, how dare I not do mine? And I know for sure that he's applauding me. I know as he left this world, he took my hand and invited me onto the next big stage of my life. Now, I choose to process it like that, and we all get a choice as to the way we process that. And I just think with this other thing around death and grief as well is that did we think that nobody was ever going to die? Like no one, there was no memo on that for us. And I wonder why we get so surprised by death. Now, I know it can be shocking when it happens, and I'm not saying we weren't shocked and torn apart and devastated and we were grief-ridden. We were all of those things, and that would be expected. That would be normal. But, of course, people will die. Nobody promised us none of this. It's a little bit like women and ageing. What, didn't you get the memo that we were going to get old? Why did we think it needed to be cured? We were always going to get old.
Oh, we still want to look good as good as we can as it progresses.
But sure, but it still was never meant to be cured and endured. It was meant to be embraced and celebrated. And, and so I guess my process now around, death with Flash and what's helped me, I guess, move through my grief is an understanding that it was never just about me. It's about his journey as well and his soul journey. And that doesn't mean I never got angry with him. Oh, I did all the stages of emotion. Don't you worry about that. I got angry with him for leaving me behind here and dealing with this stuff. But I also understood that, it's not just about me. He had his soul journey to do too. And it was time for him to go, and I have to accept that because people die and we're all going to die sometime. And I know not everyone can get that right now unless maybe you've been through something. But for me, there's peace in that, knowing that that is just all part of the plan.
That's. I mean, it is what it is. I know one of the, and just talking about that aging thing, and it's a crazy little thing, but I've always had old-looking hands, and that's just me. It didn't matter what age; they've just been old-looking hands. And I watched a movie about a young man who had cancer, and one of the things he said was, "I just want old hands." And oh my gosh, I just overwhelmed with it.
Absolutely.
And I thought, what a blessing. I've got a blessing that I've got old hands,
Yes,
so
that's exactly right. Well, my husband died at 45. I've just turned 51, and I think of all those extra years I've lived that he never got to live. Oh, how grateful am I that I get to age? How grateful am I? And as you know, I speak a lot about body image as well for women and men, and speak a lot about our relationship with ourselves because, as I said, I believe that is the foundation, that we would get through the tough times better when we had a better relationship with ourselves, because we would be loving to ourselves, and we would understand that it is okay to be happy again, because we would want somebody we love to be happy again, wouldn't we? And once again, with regards to our health, how would we treat something we loved? How would we treat somebody we loved? We would look after that person. We would treat them to nice food that would nourish their body. We would exercise because we would know it was good for something ourselves. Oh, sorry. That is how we would treat somebody we loved. And so I think that is a foundation, a core issue. And because we're not addressing that, we are putting Band-Aids on problems of obesity. We are putting Band-Aids on problems of mental and emotional health, because until we get to the foundation of these issues, and that is the relationship I have with myself. Every relationship we have in our lives will be affected by the relationship we have with ourselves. Every conversation we have with somebody will be affected by the conversations that we have with ourselves, about ourselves. And so we need to get that right first. We need to get that relationship right first. And I think that we're missing that, and we see it as being a bit of fluff, or we can't talk like that. That's not, yes, we can, and yes, we should. Where do we think, why are we so emotionally sick? Why are we so physically sick in this country? What are we doing about that? So I get I get very passionate and a little sad about this, that we're not addressing this. That the reason that people are obese is that they're not loving themselves, because you wouldn't treat yourself like that if you loved yourself. It's simple. Like, people go, "You're judging." I'm not judging you. I'm loving you. I'm loving you. Because you've learned that that's not a loving thing to do to your body. Why would you treat your body like that if you loved it? And I'm not talking about being a size 10 or a size 8. I'm just talking about being healthy. That's all I'm talking about. Whatever size that is a good size, as long as you're healthy.
Yes, and that's the thing, isn't it? That you're feeling healthy and well, and feeling energetic, and each day you can get out and embrace, and you can do the things that you want to do and the things that you love to do. I think that's the biggest thing. I know so many people are held back because their bodies just won't enable them to do those things anymore.
And with diabetes, and so that would be an indication that your body is not healthy. And so then we would stop, and this is this thing about personal responsibility. So then surely if we loved ourselves enough, you see, the reason that people don't get out and go for a walk in the morning is not because they don't know how to walk. It is not because they don't have the equipment. Everybody has got a pair of shoes in their cupboard. It is not because there are not beautiful walkways for us to walk on in every town that we live in. It is not because we don't even have free exercise equipment along those walkways to use. It is because we forgot we were worth the walk. Motivation is emotion. Emotion in motion is motivation. When I am connected to the motivation, the emotion around the walk, then I will be motivated to do it.
So when I loved myself enough and knew it was good for me, because haven't we got enough data on that? I am a bit tired, Janita, of hearing people say we need more education. I think most of us have been educated that walking, exercise is good for us. Mm-hmm. Or are we waiting for the government to spend another $1 million on another study to discover that 10 minutes of exercise a day is good for us? Because I haven't got enough data on that yet. I'm not educated enough. No, we all know that. So that's not an excuse anymore. So what is it then why we're not doing it? Because we didn't love ourselves enough. Because if we loved ourselves, how would we treat something we love? We would do something that was good for our body, and we would take it for a walk in the morning. And what about that euphoric feeling you get when you take your body for a walk in the morning? We feel so good about ourselves. We feel fantastic. We come back, we put our pants on, and we think they fit better already. No, they don't. We've only been once. But it changes the way we see ourselves because we feel good. That euphoric feeling you get from having done that is your body's way, your soul's way of saying, I love what you just did for me. Could we do it again, please? Emotion creates motion. That's motivation. And I just think that message is not getting out there.
So that's and I love that. Emotion creates
motion,
which is
it's motivation.
Yeah.
So emotion is what we connect to, and emotion is what stirs our soul. The information about the walk doesn't get us excited. It's the feeling that we get from having done it, the emotion around it. And then it's the connecting to the emotion that says, if I love myself enough, how would I treat my body? Well, I would do something loving for it, wouldn't I? And so I know that going for a walk, exercise is actually a loving thing to do for my body because it keeps it healthy. So, of course, I would do that. It's a no-brainer then. And so, yeah. And so,
absolutely. No, sorry. I'm just, it's a simplistic way of looking at it, but because it is a simple way to look at it.
That's right. And I think we complicate everything. That's why we're all so confused about all of this. We made it all too complicated. It's very simple. I think most of us know now that lettuce is better for us than a Big Mac.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually we know that. We know that fruit and vegetables is better for us than a McDonald's burger. We have had plenty of education on that. And so, therefore, when you loved yourself enough, you would do more of the good things. And that doesn't mean I don't tip over the other side. It doesn't mean that I don't open that second bottle of wine and then say to myself, you might want to listen to yourself every now and again and write a few notes because look at what you're doing. You didn't love yourself very well this morning. Look how you feel.
Yes.
So I'm not saying I don't mess up. I mess up all of the time. But I am reflective enough and have enough self-leadership skills now where I can call myself on it and don't blame anybody else for it. I can say to myself, Julie, the reason you find yourself here, maybe the reason I find myself not fitting into my clothes anymore is because when I went through this change that I'm in right now of menopause, I actually have to now treat my body differently. And you either take it up or you don't. And so you take the responsibility for it. So, and the reason maybe that I can't, my credit card bills are so out of control is not the government's fault, but maybe the reason is that I spent my money on too many damn shoes trying to keep up with everybody else. And I didn't live within my means. And now I need to pay the price and redirect and learn from that. So this is all about personal responsibility.
Yes, and that's something that I've noticed, and this is a very general statement, but more so now than, say, in the 1950s, where everyone, in previous times when it was just their life to live and there was less of that expectation that somebody else was going to take responsibility for us. There's so much more now, and a whole lot. We could spend hours discussing why this is so.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more out there that people are very quick to put a blame somewhere else and to attribute their situation to somebody else's actions.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the most powerful, and any self-help book you read, and I've got hundreds of them on my bookshelf. Maybe I'm a slow learner, or I'm just I'm on a quest to read anything I can in that space so that I can be strong in my own life. But anything will tell you your most powerful moment will be when you take full responsibility for your life. Now, that doesn't mean I caused my husband to pass away, and there were moments I wondered if I did something wrong to, attract all of this into my life, and I went through all of that victim stuff, and it's okay to go through all of that. We're humans, we're allowed to, as long as we work our way back through it. And that's how learning and growing happens. So I did all of that. But in the end, I can't necessarily affect everything that's going to happen to me, but I can always choose my reaction to it. And that's that personal responsibility. And I can always choose how I move through it and decide from there where I go. So that is the empowering moment that you have in your life, where you can just suddenly say, well, that makes me feel great because this is my life. And who else would I want to give responsibility, for this for? I don't want to hand the responsibility, my happiness for my life over to someone else, that I'm just going to hope today everybody be as nice to me as possible and that everything goes really well so that I can be happy today. I'm going to make it a happy day even if somebody isn't nice to me, because this is my life.
Absolutely. And you can actually then influence others around you by being in that space yourself. So someone else that you walk into a shop and they, oh, hi, how are you? Go through the processes and you go, it's absolutely awesome. How's your day been? You have a chat to somebody and you see that change them. Absolutely. Then they have the opportunity to influence the next customer.
That's exactly right. And when I present, this is exactly one of the things I talk about. And that's how we make a difference in the world. I think that we've actually become attached to, and I guess social media is a little bit, we could blame it or can just say that this is kind of one of the things. But I don't blame. I just say we've just got to grow through it. We've just got to understand that that's how it is and then grow through it because it's here to stay. But social media coerces us into thinking that, you make a difference when you have a post go viral or, you get a video with lots of likes or something. But really making a difference in the world is in those moments that you just talked about, those stages that we get every day where we can interact with somebody and leave them better for having met us. That's the stages that make a difference in the world. That's a legacy that that people will talk about after we're gone. That's how we really impact the world. And every time we do that, we make a deposit, what I believe, into our karmic bank where life rewards us in some way along the way for showing up on those stages, in those moments where it's just this interaction. I had this story I tell on my Adults Only show where it's about humour because I don't think we laugh enough anymore. We find with all this political correctness, we're suddenly worried about when we should laugh. Are we allowed to laugh? Is she laughing? Well, she's not laughing yet. I better not laugh. Maybe she's going to think I'm laughing at her. I better wait till she starts laughing. Is everyone laughing? So it's almost like you've got to invite people to laugh now. And laughter's so good for us. But I was in IGA and I ordered some ham at the deli and, I said 200 grams of ham. She picks it up, throws the ham on the scales. Well, you wouldn't believe it. She hit 200 right up front. So I'm like, yes, yay. Ring a bell, somebody. We just got 200 grams of ham first time over here. Well, this girl just about fainted behind the deli, but then she kind of went bright red and then she kind of smiled. I said, you must feel like you want a bell to ring when that happens. I said, what are the chances? She goes, oh, it does feel pretty good. And I said, it should. And next thing, people are coming over to the deli. We're all laughing and chatting. And then the guy after me looks at her and goes, I want 125 grams. And she's like, oh. But suddenly it created connection. It was fun. It was lightness. It was laughter. It was a lovely moment, And so we all have a moment where we can leave somebody's life a little bit better or add a little bit of joy. And it may not go viral. It may not be a morning TV or it may not be, get 5,000 likes on Facebook. But that's actually not what it's about. It's about showing up in all those moments, on all those stages and leaving people better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, look, that's a hilarious story. I delivered a speech at a speech contest over the weekend at a conference, and I talked about getting off devices and just going and living life and just make your own stories. And says me who's right across social media, but that's a business thing more so.
And that is okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's always about balance.
But it's that life experience where it's that, just noticing something like that, and you can change it up. The staff at this conference at this hotel in Liverpool were outstanding. They were probably the best staff in any hotel right across the board. It was people helping us organize things, everything, and it was just awesome working with them. And they really appreciated the feedback that we gave them, just to how helpful they'd been, and you can see people change their response to things, and
That's
they're more
right.
willing to give as well.
Absolutely. And I think we underestimate the value of that in that person's life that day. Like, I don't think we get it. Like, we love to post a meme on Facebook about how everyone should be kinder and all that sort of thing, and people should be kind to each other and people should be nice. And then, you know, I hop on the plane and a lady is there with her crying baby, and I look around at all the people and I'm thinking, those people that are showing dissatisfaction and rolling your eyes, this was your moment to practice what you preach, and you just missed it. You just missed your moment to be kind today. You know, so it is. It's all that. And when you give those people that moment, you know, we just never know the impact we've had on their lives. We just never know. You know, there was this lady, I went into bras and things, as you do, to buy some bras and things, and this lovely young girl who was Y generation, and she gave me this such wonderful service. She took me away from the big girl panties and took me to something much nicer. She thought I was okay for that for now. So I was like, oh, thank you. Her name was Georgia, and she just gave me the best service. And, you know, we talk a lot negatively about service, and I love to praise and promote rather than name and shame. So whenever I get a great moment, I love to praise and promote that. And especially with our young people. And so I said to her, can I take a selfie with you? And I'd love to do a little write-up on you on my Facebook page. And so she said, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. So I wrote a story about her and gave her this, you know, great applause on social media. And it got lots and lots of traction and lots of traffic. And she got tagged in the post, and her friends spoke, and other people sort of chimed in and said, oh, she gave them great service too. Her mother ended up messaging me and saying, Julie, and I'm going to makes me a bit emotional. Julie, you don't know me, but I'm George's mother, and you wrote a post about her on Facebook, and I just need to tell you about the profound effect that that's had on her. You know, she's gone through anxiety and depression, and we actually thought we were going to lose her at one stage, and, you know, she's found this great job now and her life's really turned around, and I just can't tell you what all that applause and lovely recognition has done for her and for us too. So thank you so much for that. You know, and now I got to hear about it, but we won't always get to hear about it. But we can know for sure that we've created ripples in somebody's life in those moments that will go on forever, and it will come back to us. It always does.
And it's very simple versions of the movie Pay It Forward, isn't it?
Yes,
and it's just little things that make a difference in people's days.
Yeah.
No, that's a great story. That's just awesome.
There's those moments, you know. And another time, this lady at the bus stop when we first moved here, and Thomas, my son with autism, was learning to catch trains when we'd moved to a new place, and he was very stressed, and the bus was late one morning. We had all this stress in the house, and I was stressed and he was stressed, and I had work. But I said to him, well, I'll walk you up to the bus stop. We'll make sure the bus comes today. And so he was standing at the bus stop, and he was marching around, and, you know, autism, when they get stressed, he kind of swears under his breath, and I'm just sitting on the seat trying to stay really calm, and this lady sat beside me, and I saw that she had visually impaired badge on, and she just sort of sat beside me and said hello, and I started sort of making some conversation with her, and she kind of said to me, oh, if bus 696 comes, can you tell me, because I have trouble seeing them? And I said, oh, okay. Anyway, then Thomas is still walking around, and he's stressed, and so Thomas's bus finally came, and it came first, and he got on the bus. And I'd had a bit of a chat to this lady, but then I turned to leave, and then I realised that Rosemary was still sitting there, and I kind of thought, oh, you know, even in my head I'm thinking I've got to get back and make all these phone calls. I'm behind now already. And then I looked at Rosemary and said, oh, Rosemary, are you going to be right to catch your bus? Can you see it? Or do you need me to stay? And she said, oh, I really would like you to stay if that's okay, or I might miss it. And in my head, part of me is going, oh, Julie, you've got to get home and do all this work. And my heart said, sit down now. This is your work. This is your work as a fellow human. Sit down or you're going to miss it, you know. Yeah. And so that was a really big moment for me too. And you talk about the business or being on social media all the time or on our phones, and we miss those moments to show up right there for our fellow human. And her and I ended up having a lovely conversation. And in the end, you know, the gift was for me. The gift was for me in that conversation of her inspiring me with, you know, she's going to visit her mother. She's visually impaired. She's going to visit a mother in a nursing home who's 99 or something. Wow. And I'm just thinking, look at you. Look at you. What an inspiration. So, yes, they're the moments. We don't want to miss showing up for those moments.
And there's moments every single day.
Every single day.
I'm a great chatter to people on planes. Just to, you know, usually say the initial hi at least, rather than just ignore the person that you're sitting next to for the next hour or 2 hours or 10 hours, depending where you're going.
Yeah.
But I sat next to a priest coming back from Sydney a couple of months ago, and we just had the most amazing conversation, and the things that he does within his community, and then I offered to come and do some speaking for them as well, and it was just it could have been a boring flight home, or just that it bring joy into my life. So when my husband picked me up from the airport, I babbled on about
That's right.
that conversation,
wasn't it? Yeah.
afterwards, and I always say I've made a new friend, and everyone knows what that means. I've just talked to somebody until they talk back, really.
I love it. Oh, no. But, don't we all, and this is the thing about, once again, with our emotional health, with people feeling lonely and people not connecting. One of the things that I really noticed in Fiji, I took my son to Fiji, my oldest son, Jack, when he finished school, as a bit of a rite of passage trip just for him and I to have some time away from autism. And, I felt like he missed out on me and not having his dad over the years because autism was so loud and grief was so deep. But anyway, we had a trip away together. And one of the things that I noticed in Fiji is when they say bulla, they don't go bulla and keep walking like we will often do. We'll go hi as we're walking past somebody, or hi, how are you, and keep walking. They say bulla, they stop, they look at you, and they go, and how are you? And then they stand there and they wait for, life. They've slowed life down, and they make sure that they really show up and be present for people and be in the moment with those people. And that's that thing of just taking that moment to connect, isn't it? And to let people know we're here, we're all here. We're all in this together. We're all here.
And you have to slow down to see it.
Yes, you do a little bit. That's exactly right. You do.
Yeah. Oh, we have, it's been, I told everyone it was going to be just so much fun speaking with you. And we've got some takeaway points. I mean, they're all being covered in the conversations, but do you want to just share those so that you can reinstate those as well?
Sure. Well, I think for me the beginning is that it's about the relationship we have with ourselves. It's about loving ourselves up. Let us take the time every day to look into who we are. We are taught by marketing to look at ourselves and make comparisons. That's what marketing teaches us, to look at our lives, to look at ourselves and make comparisons. Let us look into who we are. Let us look into ourselves and love ourselves up from the inside. We look at a newborn baby and we are in awe. We celebrate. We can't believe. We see miracles. We see divine. We see unlimited potential. Everybody looked at us like that. Everybody looked at us like that. That is who we are. We just grew up is all. So let us see the divine miracle in all of us. And loving yourself doesn't mean we think we're better than anybody else. It doesn't mean we're conceited. It's not something you walk into a room and go, hi, my name's Julie and I love myself. It's just a quiet confidence to know we are as good as everybody else and that we are always worth getting back up for. So I think that's the first thing, is to really – we constantly work on that relationship with ourselves and know that we are enough. And as we age as women, I think it's a stronger, we've got to be stronger in that resolve to keep loving ourselves through that and loving our wisdom and our age as we age. And I think the next thing is to surrender that life hurts a little and sometimes life hurts a lot. And just because life's hurting doesn't mean it's not working. It doesn't mean it's not working. Life hurts sometimes. You don't know hot unless you know cold. You don't know happy unless you know sad. How do you know happy if you haven't been to sad? You can't feel life unless you have the both sides. It's a dichotomy, So don't become attached to, if I'm in pain, it mustn't be working. No, if you're in pain, it's still working, because you climb a hill, it hurts to climb the hill. Your feet get sore, you get blisters, but you get to see the most magnificent view and you feel fantastic when you arrive. When we were learning to walk, we got up, we fell over, we hurt ourselves. We look like we didn't say, this is ridiculous. I've made this mistake over and over again. I cannot walk. I'm a failure. I'm going to sit here. I've hurt my head. We just keep getting up because we were always supposed to fall over when we tried something new. That's how we got better at it. So life will hurt a little and sometimes it hurt a lot. And so I think there's that, and I just think it's to know that we are, mentally stronger and more emotionally stronger than we give ourselves credit for. So use it, use those emotional and mental muscles to lift yourself to a better feeling place when you're hurting. Use those muscles, start thinking, I can take myself to a better feeling place, and watch your energy level rise as you do. So know for sure that we are stronger than we think, and live all the moments. Use your stage in all the moments, and then flow. Life will open up doors for you. It will open up stages for you. Oh, what an amazing life we will have ahead of us if we just grab it.
Look, there's so many great bites of information there, and such a fun and interesting and passionate conversation as well. You're certainly so passionate about everything you do, and I know you're currently passionate about your adults only shows. Then the timing of this is not going to be great, so you will have completed some of this in 2019.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure that you're something you're going to be doing that, Julie, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Always on my website for my public events. So I obviously speak at corporate events and conferences, etc., which is my main work. And then in between that, I do my public events, which this tour is the adults only show. I've done building resilience events for families. I've done mother and daughter events. But whatever theme we're having, they will be posted on my website, as also on social media. So that is where you get to find me. And also, if there's an organisation that wants a speaker for their next conference, I'm your girl. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can't highly recommend Julie enough, because, as I said, being in the audience of hearing you speak, one moment I'm crying and the next moment I'm laughing, and to be able to, get those emotions out of an audience, it takes a great deal of talent and skill, and the way you tell the stories, it's so engaging, and everybody who listens participates. It goes on a journey with you. And
thank you.
It's wonderful. So your website is what, Julie? juliecross.com.au. Okay, and everything that we've talked about, and information, and a way to get Julie speaking at your event, and or finding where you can go and track her down somewhere and
absolutely,
and hear her speak as well. I highly encourage you to do so, and find that opportunity to get to know Julie. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Janine. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved chatting with you, and thank you to all your listeners. Thank you so much. It's been an honour.
Most welcome. And thanks again, Julie. And that's another episode of the We Are Women podcast. And I'm, again, as Janine Vosby, your host. And if you've got any questions or you want to get in touch with me, then you can pop on my website, and just spelling Janine is JANEENVOSPER.com, and it's got all the contact details and different events that are coming up as well, where I am running some training stuff. So please go and check that out. I also have We Are Women mastermind meetings and breakfasts around the south side of Brisbane. So if you can actually get there, then that would be great to see you. And of course, leave a 5-star review. Well, even if you wasn't 5-star, which it was absolutely brilliant with Julie on. It was certainly a 5-star today. And that also helps sort of get us a little bit more engagement with greater audience if you do so. But thank you very much to all my listeners, and I look forward to you joining me for the next episode. And bye for now.
So, do you feel stuck in a rut in business? Visit speechperfect.com.au and download Janine's free ebook to avoid the 5 most common stumbling blocks women face in business. It's jam-packed full of tips to overcome the barriers that could be holding you back from the success that you dream your business will be. We would love you to leave a review of today's episode and share this podcast with other women in need of entrepreneurial inspiration. Subscribe to the next episode now and join the We Are Women community.
If you'd like to attend one of my public shows or book me to speak at your next conference, please visit juliecross.com.au.